Once a homeschooling mom, Renae Brumbaugh Green is now an author of 30 books. Courageous Girls Can Change the World, Devotions and Prayers for Making a Difference, empowers 8 to 12-year-old girls to discover that even though they're young, they can make a difference in the world. So, hi, Renae. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, Care. It's great to be here.
So what Bible verse and message did you weave throughout this devotional?
Oh, there are so many great verses, but I would say the passage that I would want to be front and center would be Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 18, and wearing that full armor of God. There are so many pieces to that armor. And so we have the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, wearing the shoes. I love shoes. The gospel of peace, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation. But all of those are defensive. Those are what we put on to protect ourselves. There's only one offensive weapon, and that's the sword. And that is the Word of God. And so when we fill our lives with the Word of God, when we read it, when we memorize it, when we speak it, when we live it, that is actually our offensive weapon to go out there and be those superpower hero girls and actually fight against evil in this world. And so...
Yeah, that's so good. I actually thought you might say the verse in Timothy, because I remember that was one that I thought of too, is, don't let them look down on you because you're young.
Absolutely.
But I think what you're saying just ties in so well with this whole theme of courage, which actually you have a lot of books and resources surrounding the message of courageous girls. People can go to courageousgirls.com. Why is this something that's a passion for you? How did this all start?
As a mom of a daughter, of course, she's all grown up now, but that was a passion for me, feeding into her as she grew up. But also even further back than that, I think my story probably rings true with so many. I was really sensitive. I was a little bit bullied when I was in elementary school. And that's not an unusual story. I think girls especially do have a tendency to be a little bit mean to each other. But when we decide to be courageous, when we decide to make a stand for those, do the right thing in the moment, sometimes we think, well, it's just that moment. It's just that one thing. But you really can change the world. And you can certainly change somebody's world in that moment by doing the right thing, by standing up, by showing love when somebody's annoying you, or by being kind when somebody's mean to you. That takes courage. Yeah. That takes bravery. But we can be those courageous girls. And so, lots of history there. But I do feel very passionate about being a courageous girl.
Yeah. Well, like you said, girls can be mean to one another. And so there's really power in, one girl being courageous can make another courageous. And you actually you shared some examples already just there, but there's some great examples in the book on what girls can do that takes courage. Can you highlight a few? I mean, one that comes to mind is just even accepting help from others. That takes courage. But I don't know if you want to elaborate on that one, or if you have a favorite, maybe.
There are just so many favorites in here. But accepting help it takes courage because it takes humility. Because sometimes we want to I want to do it myself. I don't need your help. And, but it takes some humility to say, you know what, I do need your help. I do. But not only does it take humility, but it also helps the other person feel important. When we're constantly being independent and not accepting help from others, then we deny others the ability to feel like they have something to offer and to share. And so we're not only being wise and helping ourselves, but we're helping somebody else when we accept help.
Yeah. So, what about loving hard-hearted people? That's another one that stuck out to me.
Oh my goodness. It's easy to love those who are easy to love. Why anybody can do that. But when we have to treat people with kindness who are mean to us, that's the thing that that builds the most character in us. But you never know what somebody else is going through. And usually if someone is hard-hearted or mean, there's a reason for that. And our being loving and kind to them may be the thing that softens their heart.
Yeah. I mean, there's 180, so it's really hard to pick. 180 encouraging readings with prayers, with biblical truth there, and they're not long, which I also like. But you talked a little bit already about your background. Do you feel like we as a culture have gotten better or worse at encouraging and celebrating, courage and strong girls and girls being able to change the world?
I think we're moving in the right direction. But girls often are taught to be people pleasers. We're taught to be quiet and to be good girls. But it's rarely the ones that just do what is expected. They're not necessarily the world changers. And I have a story of when I was in elementary school, if you'd like to share. But I was really sensitive. I cried easily. I wasn't really a crybaby. Things hurt my feelings and I would cry. And it got to a point, kids are just mean and they would try to make me cry because it was so easy.
Yeah.
What can we do? And I had a friend, Tammy Johnson, who was the courageous girl in this story. And some people were being mean to me. And in that moment, I felt so alone. I remember I was holding my breath, trying not to let the tears come, trying to pretend like it didn't matter. And all of a sudden, Tammy Johnson walked up beside me. She held my hand and she just stood there. She didn't say anything, but she was someone who was very confident. The other kids respected her. And it just stopped. And so that action on her part changed my world in that moment. And it showed me what it was to be courageous. And so really, it took a lot of courage for her. But it's something that I can remember, even though it was decades ago. I can remember it just like it was this morning. And each and every girl that's listening, you can be that Tammy Johnson for somebody. So,
yeah. Wow. Okay. As we wrap up then, what is the number one most important thing then, or the first step even for a parent guiding their daughter?
I would say we need to watch ourselves because, our words are important, but our actions are more important. And our children really do tend to become who we are, not necessarily who we tell them to be. And so we need to watch our words when we're talking about other people. We need to make sure that we are acting courageous. If someone is being treated wrongly, that we would be the one to stand up and say that's not right. But also just that we exhibit all of those fruits of the Spirit, that we, remember all of these weapons and the shield of faith and all of those things. They need to be real in our lives, not just something that we teach them and then we go do our own thing. So I think just moms, I would say for me, I had to learn to be humble with my own daughter and admit when I had messed up, admit when maybe I had not acted in the way that was the right way, that I did the wrong thing. And by admitting that I was flawed, I think that maybe helped her some to understand that it's a process for all of us.
Wow. Well, it's again 180 encouraging readings for 8 to 12-year-olds. For girls, just encouraging them to make a difference in this world because they can and they're called to. And just so appreciate you in this book, Renae Brumbaugh Green, on our bookmark today. Thanks, Renae.
Thank you, Care.